Hi, everyone. My name is Paige. I am the COO of SongVest and really appreciate everyone's time for joining us today. I'm happy to introduce Sean Peace, our CEO at SongVest, and he's going to talk to you a little bit today about the company and the opportunity for our crowdfunding raise that we have going on right now. For anyone that is just now joining us, please feel free to use the Q&A button at the bottom of your screens to send over questions, and I'll be following along there to answer any questions that come in. So I think with that, Sean, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you.
Sure. Well, thanks everybody for joining us today, especially right before Thanksgiving. And I appreciate everyone taking the time to learn a little bit more about SongVest, whether it's from an investment perspective, meaning investing in the company, or you just want to learn a little bit more about what we do and how we differentiate ourselves from other fractional interest companies. So with that being said, I'm going to share my screen and get started on the presentation. So if you haven't heard, really over the last 2 years, there's been a lot of activity in the music royalty space. Even though we kind of started the market back in 2011, when we first started a company that was the first company to allow investors to buy royalties, it's really picked up steam around the last 2 years. Whether it's Hypnosis that's been investing billions of dollars into buying catalogs, or Primary Wave, or you hear about Bruce Springsteen selling his catalog for hundreds of millions of dollars. There's been just a tremendous amount of interest in music royalties. And there's a good reason for that. If you look at this particular chart, you can see that as streaming came on board in that 2006, 2007, 8, all the way to 2011, music as a whole, meaning the whole industry's revenue, went down. And then as you had the growth of streaming, we've seen a tremendous rebound in the music industry's revenue, where now it is around $25 billion. And it is projected to continue to grow. I think it's like at a 6.6% year-over-year increase. But even if you just look at 2021 numbers, you know, there was an 18% growth in revenue. There's 21% growth in paid streaming. So music has really rebounded as a market. And what's interesting from our standpoint, because everyone wants to look at what is the total addressable market, and the total addressable market for us, if we were to sell at a minimum of something like 10x, that's almost $259 billion in addressable market that we can have access to. And just real quick, you know, why is there this interest in music royalties? The main reason is that it's an alternative investment. So you have, at least before the market downturn, you know, interest rates were about at zero. So being able to hold an asset that had a high yield, I mean, almost like you can think of it like a bond, where music royalty assets were performing better than bonds. It's been an investment class that has been overlooked really until the last couple of years. But the biggest reason is that it's an alternative is that it's not tied to the market. So it's a non-correlated asset. And that means that, like what we're experiencing right now, where there's been a big dip in the stock market, music royalties continue to grow. You know, you don't necessarily cancel your Spotify membership or your Apple membership just because the economy is in some kind of downturn. So what is it that we share? I mean, that we sell? I mean, what are SongShares? And in relation to all of these royalties that are paid out in the music industry? Well, what we provide for the first time is to allow an artist, or really any rights holder, that has rights to music royalties to fractionalize them. So we utilize what all of the other fractional companies are using, which is a Regulation A+ SEC qualified offering that allows us to fractionalize music royalties and sell them via SongShares for anywhere between $100 to $250 a unit. And that may change as we try and figure out what the right pricing is. And of course, this is really important right now. I mean, if you look at what's happening to crypto and all the companies, whether it's FTX that are cratering or going bankrupt, it's actually a good thing to be an SEC qualified offering because we are a true up security. All of our information is listed in our in all of our SEC forms. So, you know, all of our financials are audited. So from an overall investment perspective, we're actually one of the good guys that are out there. The other thing that's a little bit different around SongShares is that you're not just buying, you know, ownership in something, you're actually buying ownership in a royalty stream for a song or a group of songs. So we pay out royalties on a quarterly basis. And in the future, we plan to create a secondary trading market so that you'll actually be able to buy and sell these SongShares. And some of you may ask, okay, what is the actual underlying security here? Just as a quick aside, what you're really buying is the security is actually the income from the contract between SongVest and the rights holder. So you're purchasing a right to receive that particular percentage of that income of that underlying contract. And these are long-term assets. I mean, these are assets that can be life of copyright. So that could be 70 years plus. So this is not something that's a short-term asset. It's something that you can hold and actually pass down to your family members. And just real quick on what the process is, because this is kind of unique in the industry as well. We don't just take SongShares and say, oh, well, we think it's $100 and that's what we're going to sell it for. You know, when you look at an IPO, it's always, well, what's the IPO price going to be? So after we sign the royalty agreement with the rights holder, we can hold what's called a VIP auction. And that really allows the pricing mechanism to happen. So this is, again, super unique in the market. So an artist may go, well, I have a ton of fans, but I'm not sure, you know, how many fans are really interested in this particular song. And at the VIP auction, those units may start, for example, at $100. And once all of those are reserved or allocated, it can go to 110 and then 120, 130. So if you have a really rabid active fan base, then that price can go up as high as, you know, normal supply and demand dictate, so that you can make sure that you're maximizing the price of what you're selling to your fan investors. Once that's done, then we go ahead and submit that to the SEC because there's this thing called test the waters that allows to do that via the VIP auction. Once we submit that to the SEC, it comes back. And then this is really where, again, a unique aspect of it. Everyone, you can think of it as like a concert pre-sale for tickets. Everyone who participated in the auction can come and claim and purchase their shares 24 hours before it goes live to the general public. And why is that really a good business model? It is because then we condition people, because some people may not be able to purchase those shares in the IPO when it goes on sale because they were already all allocated. And so what we do is we train people on the platform to say, hey, wait a minute. If I want to ensure that I'm going to get a ticket or a song share, then I need to make sure that I participate in the auction. And so that means more people participate in the auction and they get used to it, which allows us to make sure that we're maximizing the price for the seller or for the artist. And then finally, after those things are purchased, we close out the security and our platform is just like a Ameritrade account, et cetera. You're going to see your shares. And then you're going to receive those royalties on a quarterly basis as they come in. So the platform itself, as I just talked about, is the marketplace where the VIP auctions happen. It's where we, put together the SEC offerings, the qualified offerings where you buy the shares. And then, as I mentioned before, there is that dashboard. And this is really important because we think of this as kind of the heart of the system, where you're going to see all the SongShares that you've purchased or you have pending. You get to see all of your royalties. If and when we decide to turn on secondary trading, you'll be able to see what your market, your overall stock SongShare portfolio is worth based on what's trading in the secondary market. But the thing that is really unique from our standpoint is the fan engagement. So this is where the artist can directly reach out to the fans, and we'll talk about this in a bit, where there is a connection there, where the artist can actually motivate and communicate with the fan investors because maybe they have a new release or they're going on tour, et cetera. But we'll talk about that in just a minute. So the most important thing is when you look at, well, what has the success been of other companies in our marketplace? And why do we think that we're going to be not only different, but why we think we're going to be the market leader in the fractional ownership marketplace? So there's marketplaces like MasterWorks or Rally or Otis. MasterWorks has probably gotten the most press recently. There you can buy fractional interest in Picassos and other expensive pieces of art. And for example, they just raised $100 million into a $1 billion valuation. Then you've got other kind of more collectible like Rally and Otis. On Rally, you can, for example, buy a fractional ownership in a Ferrari. So all of those things are great, but the way those models work is you invest, and then you have to wait 2 or 3 or 4 years for them to sell the asset before you can get your return. So there's a huge long lag in that. So why we think that we're actually different and can actually eclipse them from size is first our addressable market. So we have over $259 billion of addressable market, meaning content that we could potentially sell. Now, we're not going to sell all of that, but that's a big pool that we can play in to sell a lot every single year. The other thing that's a little bit different for us is we think we have a much larger customer reach because everybody loves music. There's all kinds of different types of music genres. It's certainly on a worldwide basis. You don't have to be an investor who just likes art or who just likes fancy watches or fast cars. Music is such a much broader opportunity for people to come in and participate in our marketplace. The other thing that none of those companies have is the direct connection. Right. So they're selling, say, for example, Picasso. Well, Picasso's not alive anymore. If you're buying a Ferrari, Enzo's not there to talk to you about that Ferrari. So there is no direct kind of connection between whoever created the asset and those particular marketplaces selling that asset. And that's a game changer for us because we have that direct fan and artist engagement. The artist themselves is saying, hey, listen, this is my song, something that I created or the band created, and I'm offering it to you, the fans. So that is the direct connection that we think is going to be super powerful for our invested fans on the platform. The other thing that's different is just the term. The assets that you might hold on those platforms, you might hold it for 2 or 3 years. We're talking about potentially a life of copyright relationship. Again, that could be 70 years plus between you and the artist, right? So that longer term connection, we think, is going to keep people more engaged. The other thing that's really cool in our particular model is that the artist brings their own fan base. If you look right now, and you go to the MasterWorks website, you're going to see that you're retargeted all over the place. Like they're having to spend hundreds of millions of dollars, on marketing, or tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars on marketing, because they have to go find those art fans or those art investors and then let them know about the company. Excuse me. The real awesome value in ours is that the artist brings their own fan base. We're talking about either bringing songwriters that have Beyonce songs or Dua Lipa songs, or we're talking about the artists themselves that are bringing those to market where they already have a fan base. And so they're engaging that fan base with us and on their behalf to sell it to their particular fans. So our cost of acquisition, of customer acquisition, we think is going to go down exponentially. The last thing that's really unique to our platform is constant engagement. And what does that mean? It means that there can be utility with SongShares. That utility could be that, in concerts, there's a private area that you can go to where you get special access to things. So that perk or utility aspect is something that, again, those other platforms can't offer. The last thing is, or the other thing is, that we're paying royalties quarterly. So you don't have to wait 2 or 3 years for that engagement to feel like you're earning something. So because you're earning something every single quarter. And then the last two things is, one, participation. The artist, it's up to the artist, but the artist can choose to engage all of these invested fans as kind of a street team for marketing. So, whether you're going on going on tour, or whether you're having a concert in my town, or, we're dropping a new song, like all of that can be pushed out through this group of invested fans. And then the last thing that's really cool, I always think about this, is like why would I even want to do it? And it's sticky, right? Because think about it. If you could own a piece of your favorite song, it's different than, oh, I own a piece of a Ferrari on rally, but I own a piece of this song. I can hear it, I can hear it on the radio. My friends can come over. I can play it for them. I can share that. And every time I hear that song, I think about, oh, wow, yeah, I own a piece of that. I just got paid, whatever it is, 0.0001 cents, because it's streamed on Spotify. So that stickiness of our platform compared to the others is really things that we think it's differentiating. So why now? Why is this a good time to invest? Well, one, again, because of the growth in alternative investments and just music in general, from an investment perspective, it's getting a lot more traction. The crypto free fall is certainly highlighting why you should invest in things that are SEC qualified or under the umbrella of SEC. The other thing is, you look at the investments by Hypnosis or Primary Wave and all of the other folks that are getting into the market. And then the last piece is really just the investment environment. People are used to fractional ownership now, with Robinhood being able to buy fractional ownership in stocks, of course, and in crypto. So that has really opened up, especially for the millennials and the younger generation, they're more used to investing in things like this. The other reason now is really from a fan perspective. If you've looked over time, fans used to be really far apart from the artist. It's like, all I could do was buy a ticket. And then we started to have things like Kickstarter, where, they could pre-buy albums and help fund the artist. And then there was Patreon and Twitch, where you can actually, just gift artists money. So those things continue to bring the fan and the artist closer and closer together. And we think now, we're kind of the ultimate of that bridge, where you truly are investing, in the song. And then from a fan perspective, again, just as I mentioned earlier, millennials are a lot more interested in this fractional ownership. We kind of saw NFTs take off. They've kind of plateaued a little bit. All of these things are really coming together to have the perfect storm of why not only a company like ours, but why Rally and MasterWorks and all of those are being super successful right now. The last thing is really, why will we win? Why do we think we're going to beat the competition? Although there isn't a whole lot of competition out there right now. The best part is that, this is my second go around. I started a company called Royalty Exchange in 2011. That was the first marketplace in which to allow investors to buy and sell royalties. Again, not fractional, but just on a one-to-one basis. Back then, we didn't have the Jobs Act to allow us to fractionalize it. And I ended up selling that company in 2015. And really what I'm doing is I'm leveraging all of the experience I had at running Royalty Exchange, your normal best practices, what worked, what didn't work. And it was really the ability through the Jobs Act to fractionalize music royalties and allow us to create SongShares, which motivated me to come back into the market and really do what I've always wanted to do. And again, that's sell to fans. Also, the other reason we'll win, especially in the music industry, is that we have seen multiples move the market. Now, what does that mean? It means that, if you pay enough, and we think through fan investors who are not so concerned with the internal rate of return of their investment, that they can price the catalogs up high enough that someone who wouldn't necessarily sell might sell. And that's really more from a music catalog perspective, because honestly, if you look at an artist, a mid-tier or large-term artist may not sell because they need the money. But the reason they would sell is because it's just like, why would a company go public if they didn't need to? It's because you want to have all of those people in the marketplace that own a piece of your stock. So even though they could make a really high multiple or price for the 5% or 10% that they might sell to their fans, the real value to them is that fan connection, right? What they can do with those invested fans. The other reason that we think we'll win is just because of our network. The music industry, even though it's incredibly large, it's really a small network of different types of players. And it's about access, getting access to the artists, getting access to partners and managers and folks like that. And we have done a really great job of building up all the way back to Royalty Exchange, building up our credibility in the industry, because so many people have been screwed over by the music industry. It is super important that we have the highest form of credibility to be able to go out and work with artists, work with songwriters who are really putting their babies, up for sale or sharing that, with the fans. So that's one of the things that we've really tried to do to make sure that we can be successful. The other two things real quick is just, it is a fan engagement platform. So, it's all about, don't think of us as just the NASDAQ. It's really what can we do around fan engagement? And we understand that, right? We're not here just to sell a song share. We're here to help artists figure out how they can engage and utilize these new investors in ways that, frankly, they've never even thought of. And what the other good thing is, we do have first mover status. Now, at some point, someone's going to come in and pose some competition, which is fine. The addressable market is huge. And frankly, we feel like our credibility and our network inside the music industry, even when we do have some competition, that will keep us ahead of anyone else. So that's really it. I know that was a lot to digest in a very short period of time. But this was really kind of a primer just to get you to understand a little bit about what SongVest is and why we're so excited about the company and what we're doing, and especially around fans and artists. So if you have additional questions, please put them into the Zoom meeting, and Paige and I will do our best to answer them.
That's great. Thank you, Sean, for going through all of that. I know we've got a crowd here today, and so we're getting some questions in. I have answered some in the Q&A section really related to the SongShares process, but questions for the crowdfunding portion of this. A couple questions on how investors would get returns or liquidity, or their dividend payments in their investment in SongVest.
Yeah, so SongVest is, we aren't necessarily building SongVest to be a lifestyle company where at some point we would look to pay out dividends or things like that. We have already been approached around acquisition opportunities. So while we definitely want to grow SongVest and stay involved and see through the vision, I would assume at some point we would be acquired. And that's really where, if we're talking about investing in SongVest, like that's where you would get your return. The return is going to be through some kind of liquidity event, whether it's through us eventually going public or whether it's through someone purchasing the company.
Okay, thank you. A question from Michael: are music royalties like real estate? Will they go up in value and eventually sell for a higher price than purchased? And that obviously, the share price won't change until there is a secondary market. And that would just be the demand, as supply and demand on that changing any price of the shares on a secondary market. He has a question: is it possible for a 1031 exchange, which I'm not familiar with? Do you have any answers, Sean?
Yeah, I don't know. Usually that's with real estate. So I have no clue whether that kind of exchange would work for royalties. That would be beyond my purview.
Got it. A couple questions on how do artists get their songs offered on SongVest. And so with that, right now we have two ways. We have internal sales and we have some referral partners that work with artists across the board. And they will come to us when that artist or songwriter is looking for some financial assistance or some financial opportunities. And we are currently growing that. We've just posted another position for kind of an artist and label development position to help us keep growing that and bringing in more opportunities to the platform. A question on: are most royalties sold publishing or masters royalties? And is it artists or producers, songwriters? And it's a full mix of all of that right now on the platform. We certainly understand that artists will have the bigger fan bases when they're trying to sell directly to their fans, but the songwriters can also have a deep connection, and own that song and sell it out as well. On crowdfunding for SongVest itself, what are the terms that we're offering?
Sure. So I would highly recommend that when you go to the page, that you read through all of the terms we're using. So I'll just stay really high level because I don't want to misstate anything. But we're using a SAFE agreement. There is and part of that SAFE agreement is a value cap. I think it's up to the first 750,000 of investment gets a discount on that cap, which I believe is 15 million value cap, and then anything after that would be a 20 million value cap on the SAFE note. But definitely go through and read the SAFE document. I think it's only like 1 or 2 pages, and that will outline all of the terms.
Yes, our broker dealer would definitely prefer us to refer you to actually read the document. There is a banner on our website at songvest.com where you can easily click through and find all of that information. Question: how will your platform slow down institutional interference of larger shares compared to the average Joe being blocked out? And I guess that is buying the number of shares. Is that for SongShares? If whoever submitted that could clarify, Sean, or do you understand?
Yeah, I mean, I think I know what they mean. Like how, like if institutional investors came in, like would they squeeze out the fan? And actually, there's 2 aspects on the platform. There is, say, a catalog sale or a songwriter that doesn't necessarily have that connection with the fan. And in those cases, investors, true up investors, are probably going to look at that and pay more of an investment multiple, an investment price. And in that particular case, it is, the price is going to move up and down based on what it's worth. So an investment entity can't really come in and buy all of that. If they tried to, they would have to pay a premium, meaning a higher price than you would pay, because it is a competitive marketplace. On the fan side, we think that those multiples are going to squeeze out the investors, actually, so that institutional investors who want to buy at, say, a 5% yield or a 6% yield will not want to participate in probably some of the SongShare offerings, because the fans don't care about the 5% yield. It's going to be more a supply and demand aspect from them, that they just want to say, I own a piece of a song. And if the yield is, 4% or 3% or 2%, like, maybe they don't care. Now we need to see all of this stuff kind of continue to flesh out based on what we've already seen on the platform. But I would say that this is more fan engagement side, and it's not something where institutional investors will be able to squeeze out the fan like you would normally see.
Great. Couple questions on, showing the return on SongShares purchases. And that is something that we currently have, where we show what the past 12 months royalties were per share purchased. So if you buy a share at $100, we can show you that the last year that would have made $12. So you can kind of reverse that to get your return on investment of that being anywhere from a 6 to 8% return. Sometimes it can be even higher. So you can look at those numbers on the site. A question about any perks on behalf of the artist and rewards levels. And so, I think that's something that we're definitely open to once we get the right artist that's ready to engage with their fans. We have to be very clear, and that's all information that has to go in the offering circular and be documented ahead of time before selling, but it would be possible.
Mm-hmm.
I think we've gone through all of those questions. When will you start having events for SongVest investors in the company? As soon as we can. We'd love to.
Without a doubt.
Yeah, the company's, fully remote. We're a small team so far. And we're really excited that we sold our first SongShares last August, was the very first one. We've had 6 successfully qualified by the SEC. We've got 3 more pending, hopefully for qualification this week or next, and have done quite a lot. So if you are in Nashville, California, Raleigh, North Carolina, you might find some SongVest team members around there. We've wrapped up kind of early. I'll give everyone a minute if there's any more questions that anybody wants to ask. But I think we've gone through quite a lot here today. Like we said, there's a banner. If you haven't looked at the investment, if you go to songvest.com, the top of the page, you can click and go to the crowdfunding page. You'll be getting a series of emails once you register, and it'll walk you through that process. Yes, we do have a recording of this, and that is something that we can either send out a link or we will post it on that investment page so that you can go back and watch that as well, or share it with others.
Yeah, and we're more than happy as well, if you have further questions or need to do a deeper dive, whether it's on the music side or the investment side, we're more than happy to set up additional calls or meetings to do that.
Yes, and I put an email address in the chat here. The investors at songvest.zohodesk.com is our ticket system to make sure we track all incoming questions and we can get those answered. There is also a Q&A on the investment page, so you can type in questions, I think, directly on that page, and we can answer them there as well.
Yep.
How long do VIP auctions remain open for generally? It's definitely varied. We would say probably 2 to 3 weeks, I think, on VIP auctions. As we grow and gain more users, we expect that to shorten so that there would be a shorter period of time where you have to get in, make your bid, and get it reserved before time is up. But right now we're keeping it open so that we can make sure we have time to contact everyone and they see the opportunities. Sean, we do have a question on the difference between SongVest and SongVest Records from someone that looks like they have purchased SongVest Records shares or invested in that company.
Yeah, so that is a totally separate company that is not related, except that I do have an interest in SongVest Records. And they've actually rebranded. They're now SVR Music. But there's no correlation between the two.
Great. And will we hold special auctions for prior investors instead of first-time investors? We have an auto invest function. That's not something I believe we've talked about or would be able to do. Is it on the Reg A?
No, because everything, because it's a security, basically everything has to be equal. So we couldn't give anyone preferential treatment. The only way that we can is, again, and because it's equal to everyone, is through the participation in the VIP auction.
These are great questions. We really appreciate everyone being involved and active in this, and happy to answer all of these questions for you. I think we might have gotten through all of them. Oh, Start Engine gives extra shares due to prior investments in company.
Yeah, that's not, so they can do that because they're a platform that deals with tons of companies. We're just one company. So it's not, there isn't necessarily a way for us to do anything because we're just raising for SongVest. They're like Ameritrade or Robinhood. Robinhood would give you some shares, or some money that you can buy other shares with. So it's just, it's not a perk that's applicable to us, unfortunately.
Got it. A few questions here on how much has SongVest raised in the past and who is on our board or any advisors?
Yeah, sure. So the good news is that in our first raise, we raised $500,000. And I did that through people who had already purchased on the SongVest platform. We raised another additional $200,000, again, from someone who was an investor on the platform, meaning they purchased catalogs from us. So it's been really unique to be able to have people that already know SongVest, have purchased catalogs on SongVest, and have felt comfortable about our model and our growth, that they are the people that put, one, the initial investment in, and two, ongoing investment. And so that's the 700 is how much we raised before we started the crowdfunding round.
Yes. What is the use of proceeds in our document?
Sure. So again, a lot of that you can see if you go out to the website, but really the use of proceeds is growth capital. So we feel like we have proven out the model, that we've proven out the model from an artist perspective, a songwriter perspective, a fan investment perspective. So this is growth capital for us to start to accelerate. So it's to hire some headcount in business development to help us drive more sales pipeline through the artist, record label, and music manager connections. It's to spend some more on marketing. So again, brand awareness. And then some on technology. So we have not invested in an app yet. All of that is ready to go. We just want to raise some more capital before we go down the route of turning this into an app as well. So everything is about growth capital, and that's the focus of the use of funds.
Great. Oh, I think I just closed one that I was reading.
I do that all the time.
Questions about our, setting the cap that we have right now on the raise. And, that's based on our talks with other companies in the market and what we see the value of the addressable market as.
And that's also even based on the offer that we got for the company. Again, the reason that that offer didn't move forward was because of the part of the economic crash and access to capital that constricted. So it's not just a shot in the dark. That's based on what someone had actually offered for the company. So we feel very comfortable that that's spot on from a number perspective.
Great. Yes. I mean, obviously we feel very comfortable in that and think that's a great, even the safe. That's why that's the discounted number to get the early investors in.
Correct.
A few questions to clarify on board of directors and payments going out, and all of that is easily viewable in our filings with the SEC. If you need the names, information of the other investors in the company.
Yeah, here's the nice thing about being regulated by the SEC. Everything is available, meaning if you go out to the documentation on the company's actually Royalty Traders LLC, doing business as SongVest. So, and of course, the link to the SEC site is all over our webpage. When you go and look at that filing, you're going to see everything, who owns every piece of stock, any outstanding debt, every single contract, whether it's a software contract or, I mean, basically everything we have to submit, including audited financials. So if you want to get into the details and see everything about the company, that's the beauty of being under the SEC regulation. There's literally nothing hidden.
I just put in the chat function, songvest.com/offering. And so that will direct you to the latest offering circular for the company for SongShares. Of course, that is not the Form C for the crowdfund investment, to clarify on that.
Yes. Good point, Paige.
And yeah, I mean, when we get into our crowdfund, there's a great suggestion for having a Facebook group for investors or quarterly meetings. And I think that's something our marketing team would love to put together and also help us crowdfund, brainstorm ideas for what features we need and how things are working. We're always looking for marketing feedback on that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, all investments have to go through Dealmaker. They are our broker dealer for this crowdfund raise. So
now, but to be clear, that is for the crowdfunding raise.
Yes.
So here's an example. If for some reason an institutional investor or a VC or even a high net worth individual said, hey, listen, I would like to do something outside of crowdfunding, then we can certainly do that. So a lot of companies will do, for example, a Reg D offering in conjunction with the crowdfunding. So, that would only be in special occasions. And of course, it would have to be a high enough investment to warrant all of the additional work to have, an investment outside of the crowdfunding round.
Great. Hold on, I'm pulling up some links for everybody. And if you look at the bottom of your screen in the actual chat box, that's where I've put the songvest.com offering, which goes to our offering circulars for all of the SongShares. And then I just added the link to the Invest Now, which is the crowdfund raise through Dealmaker as well. And I think that's it. We're about up at our time at 45 minutes. Again, this was great. We've had a few of these and appreciate all the questions in this one. So thank you everybody for participating. Like we said, please look in the chat, save any of these links that you want. Oh, it says chat disabled. Well, that's unfortunate.
I didn't do that. Was there a second ago?
Well, I've typed in it. Apparently no one else can type in it though. We'll follow up. You'll get an email after this with information and probably a link to the viewing this again, the recorded session, and we'll make sure you have all of those links. But if you want to write down, it's songvest.com/offering, and at songvest.com, if you just go to the homepage at the top is where you can go to the crowd fundraise link. And we'll make sure the chat works for the next one, or I can share links there. So that's it. Thank you everyone so much for your time. We really appreciate it. And reach out if you can.
Thank you. Thanks everybody. Bye.